DFS. My name is Sia Najad. On Thursdays, I'm always joined by Meg Schaup and Mike McClure, except it's a little different today, right, Mike? I know you're not actually driving at the moment, but you're in a different spot, so please explain the background.
Yes, currently in my motorhome. Some of you know I do a lot of drag racing, something I grew up doing, and I've returned to the sport this year. We are racing in St. Louis again this week. We usually park on Thursdays. We were supposed to park 2 or 3 hours ago this morning. Little delay, so we're taking shows live while we try and get motorhome and trailer and everything parked, and fired up to be here for FFT DFS.
Meg, this show is so dynamic. Your reaction?
Exactly. It's just multitasking at its best. I'm impressed. So I don't doubt that Mike can pull it off and multitask and give us some winners too. So
here's what we're going to try to pull off, Meg. We've got an 11-game slate, which is a little different because normally we've been doing 13-game slates. Bye weeks start next week, but we've got the 2 Monday night games. We've got the Sunday morning games. So we only have an 11-game slate here. We've got 7 at 1 o'clock, 4 at 4 o'clock, which is always good for a nice little early or afternoon slate. I do want to tell everybody the contest link is in the description, the YouTube description, but also the podcast description. So make sure you join that contest for $5. Our week 3 winners. John Marotti, I think is his full name. He tweeted at us, which we love when people do that. So tweet at us when you win or when you come into the top 5 or top 3. But his screen name is the John A, I believe. Hit Sticks 9 came in second place, and MW Hood 76 came in third place. So congratulations to you 3. Of course, the top 15 cash in the contest, but I don't want to shout out 15 names. So those are your top 3. Let's get right to it. Meg, I'm going to start with you. Our first game of 11 that we're going to cover, and then we'll do our cheat sheets and our top 3 at each position. It's a big one, at least big names. Eagles -3.5 at the Buccaneers. We got a 44.5 point total now. This has gone up a little bit. Meg, are you playing anything in this game? Because we've got a lot of high profile names. And of course, the Eagles offense did open things up when they were down last week. I don't know if that's a precursor of things to come. How you feel about this game?
Right. That's a great point. But, the thing for me is the Bucs and Todd Bowles have always kind of had the Eagles and Jalen Hurts number. So I'm a little wary that this could be another instance where it's a great real life game, interesting to watch, but maybe not one that I want to get super involved in fantasy. Obviously, we know Bucs are depleted. Chris Godwin, TBD on if he plays and how much, but obviously I'm sure it'll be very limited. Emeka Mbuka is going to have obviously a big role, but obviously the Eagles are a tough defense. So with all these factors set, and you kind of just don't know which way Eagles will go, and maybe it was game script dependent like last week. With all that said, this is going to be a game that I probably won't have a lot in fantasy, but I'll enjoy watching. Mbuka would be probably one of the few that I would be interested in this game.
Mike, those felt like all really good points from Meg. I mean, we know Mike Evans is out. I don't really want to play Saquon Barkley against the Buccaneers rush defense. A.J. Brown was 6,300 last week. He's only 6,400 this week, and we know he can have those breakout games. Is he somebody you'd consider, or are you just out on this game, or is there somebody else?
For me, it's A.J. Brown and move on. Look, Mbuka, I think, still gets a little bit of ownership. The price point, probably appropriate for what he's been able to do, but it's A.J. Brown here. We speculated a little bit on A.J. being a good play last week. It did kind of come to fruition. Some of that was really just how poorly the Eagles played, and it became out of necessity. I would like to see them go to A.J. Brown a little more in just neutral game script versus trailing. But I'm willing to go back there again at this price point at 6,400. So A.J. Brown and then get out on this one for me.
Any thoughts? I'll go to you, Meg, on Jalen Hurts at 6,700. And I ask that because if we expect potentially, not expect, but if we're looking for an A.J. Brown big game, I mean, it's possible Jalen Hurts, it seems like a reasonable price at 6,700. Any thoughts there?
Probably not for me. Again, somehow Todd Bowles is a great defensive-minded coach. He's had his number. I mean, it's not been a ton of big games against the Bucs defense. So probably not. And I will get to it as we go through game by game. But as a big picture, whole slate perspective, my big stand is going to be, and this could be scary and this could burn me, is kind of fading the higher price quarterbacks and kind of living in the middle range. So that, again, that could be the wrong call, but that is going to be probably likely a stand I make on this slate.
I agree. I'm looking in that mid 5K range personally. I think that's where I'm going to live at the quarterback position. All right. I think we can move on. Again, I just don't think it's a great spot for Bucky Irving. Ibuka, again, I think he's appropriately priced. I'm not super interested in playing him at 6,800. I do think there's some value options. If you want to get into the Sterling Shepard conversation, I mean, he is a value at a flat 4K. So I do want to at least bring him up because with Evans being off the field, Sterling Shepard's actually been pretty good. Not super dynamic, but at a flat, am I wrong there? It's a flat 4K, right? Yeah, it's a flat 4K. So I think that's something at least to consider. Go ahead, Meg.
And Cade Otton is another cheap, just to throw it out there. When guys were out last year, Cade Otton would soak up target share, but again, not a great matchup. So he might be like deep in my player pool. We know I like cheap tight ends. I don't know if I'll get there, but he could be a consideration.
Okay, let's move on to what nobody's going to consider, taking the Saints money line at the Bills. This is a 16.5 point spread. I mean, I think it was 15.5 yesterday. Well, it opened 16.5, went down to 15.5. I think it's 16.5 again at some places. 48.5 is the total here. That's just jockeying back in between 47, 48. Meg, I'll start with you again. I think a lot of people are going to look at James Cook and they're going to say, all right, James Cook, maybe Bills defense, and then I'm going to get out of there. What say you?
Pretty much that. Yes. Again, when I talked about fading the higher priced quarterbacks, shout out to Rich Rebar, one of my favorite reads each week, but he pointed out that Josh Allen in games where they are double digit or massive favorites, those are really not the games that Josh Allen hits his ceiling games. He may have a nice floor for you, but you're looking for that ceiling outcome, especially at these higher price quarterbacks. So I'm not going to play Josh Allen in a likely blowout. And so James Cook has been getting a ton of workload. Obviously a positive game script for him. It pretty much is just James Cook for me.
Mike, are you playing James Cook on this slate? I think there's arguments certainly for and against. The argument for is this is a really large implied total for the Bills, and how are they actually going to get there? It could conceivably be through James Cook, who could have one of those 2 touchdown, 110-yard games late second quarter and then largely sits the rest of the way. Your thoughts on James Cook or anybody else on this in this game?
Yeah, look, in a vacuum, I love James Cook. I would play him. I might play him in one. So I play 5 lineups generally. I may play 1 lineup with James Cook. I think it's very appropriate. And what I mean by that is that the price point's elevated enough and he's close enough to some other great running backs that you're going to catch relatively low ownership on a team, on the starting running back for a team that is very likely to score 30-plus points and not want to get their quarterback hurt, right? So the question that you have is like, is the game competitive enough where they're only up by 10 to 14 points for a while and you could still be on the field? Or are we talking about 28-0 after 2 and really even James Cook starts losing work? Like there's a lot of variance within all of those. But I think the risk is worth it. I think it's priced appropriately. I think he's going to be, single-digit ownership probably, really close to it. I really think that, no one, when you're hand building and doing other things, like you're not paying that for James Cook when you've got CMC, Bijan, Jameer, some of the other running backs available. So 1 of 5, correlate it with the defense, and then get out. Nothing else in this game.
Meg, on the Saints side, I know you have some commentary on what Mike just said, but on the Saints side, I feel compelled to bring up just the standard garbage time argument, which Chris Olave at 5,100, Rashid Shaheed, when is he going to break out? I feel like he'll have a couple of breakout games at some point. He's 4,600. Juwan Johnson, who we love, is 4,200. And then, of course, Alvin Kamara, 6,100. I'm not even saying this for stack purposes. Like, would you consider anybody on the Saints side just because maybe there's a lot of volume in the passing game in particular?
You could consider any of those guys for negative game script. And that's why I put my hand up. I'll likely just consider one that's Juwan Johnson. The target share has been there, the first 3 games. So again, in a negative game script, I think they're likely going to have to target him a lot. His price has gone up a little bit, but not to the point where, he's still a very cheap tight end. So Juwan Johnson is the kind of the bring back and the only Saints player that I'm probably going to roster.
Yeah, I think I like Juwan Johnson as well at 4,200. Chris Olave has my interest. I just don't know if I'm going to get there at 5,100. Panthers plus 5.5 at the Patriots. They were plus 5.5 last week, by the way. I got absolutely rocked by taking the Falcons minus 5.5. That was the grossest offensive performance I think I've seen in many, many years. If you actually locked in on that game like I did, I could not believe how bad that Atlanta offense was. Some of that was attributed to the Panthers defense, I suppose, at home in a division game. But now the Panthers, Meg, have to travel to it's going to be May-led New England Patriots. And I love Drake May this week. He's not my favorite quarterback, but I love his price point. I love who he's going up against. And I love the idea of the Patriots really rebounding from an ugly performance, a game they should have won against the Steelers. Are you back on Drake May this week?
Yes, I have been on him each week. I'm going to stay on him this week. Last week, I basically got hurt by playing CeeDee Lamb, obviously, in almost everything. But we talk about playing short slates. Because I played some 1 p.m., I was able to cash with some Drake May 1 p.m. that obviously lived in a world without CeeDee Lamb on the slate. So that was nice. So, yes, I'm back in on Drake May in this matchup at home against the Panthers. My stack would probably just be going back to Hunter Henry. And because I just can't figure it out with these receivers and the target share and the route percentage. So I'll likely just stack with Hunter Henry. And then the running back situation is very interesting in New England. Big fumbling issues last week, 3 fumbles between Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson. So likely the rookie, I know, and Patriots beat reporter stuff sounds like Trevion Henderson was getting the first work. Is that a sign that it will be? Who knows? But if you want to read those tea leaves, and I'm going to try to, because he's only 5,200 and looking right now at coming at low ownership. I think this is a big rookie running back week. We'll get to that throughout the show. But Trevion Henderson is going to be in my pool at a cheap price point, likely going to get the first crack at having a workload here against a bad run defense in the Panthers.
Off the top of my head, I know when you talk rookie running backs, you're talking Omarion Hampton, Cam Scatterbo, and of course, Trevion Henderson. Mike, any tea leaves that you're reading on Trevion Henderson? Because he's only 5,200, and this is a slate where we're going to try to find some value here and there, especially if we're trying to pay up at running back for guys like Christian McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson or whoever, Barkley, Jonathan Taylor. Any thoughts on Trevion specifically?
I don't mind it. I want real confirmation before I buy in on that spot. Like there's a number of running backs I think that are in decent spots. Like for example, I'd feel slightly better as we sit today on someone like Omarion Hampton's usage against the Giants at 5,900. Still in that similar range. But I'll tell you the real reason why I won't find myself getting there as much is Christian McCaffrey remains underpriced. Jonathan Taylor's in interesting spots. It's just the running back position on a site like DK with full point PPR. You find pass catching backs. It has to be like real clear and obvious value for me to not want to spend up a lot of the time. So I get it. I just need more clarification before I dive in on Henderson. Maybe I missed the party on it, but as of right now, I don't think I'm getting anywhere in this game.
Mike, so you're out on Drake May at 5,500. And just real quick, to the extent that you would be in, and I'm not saying you are, playing Drake May naked is it a perfectly appropriate play here, right? Because that's kind of how I want to play it.
Yeah, it's an appropriate play. I think that he's got the upside, and I get that Carolina's a weaker team. Like I get all those things. I'm not overly excited about it, and the pricing is still so soft. Like, frankly, I'd rather play Pat Mahomes at 6K in a shootout against Baltimore.
Interesting. All right. So Meg, you're pairing Drake May with most likely Hunter Henry. Are you willing to play him naked, or would you just rather just pair him with somebody? And also anybody on the run back like Ted McMillan, for example.
Totally fine playing Drake May naked, fine with just Hunter Henry, fine with just Trevion Henderson, or fine with both. I'm open to all those options with Drake May. Not really getting to a run back in my pool and my build so far. So yeah, I will say it sounds like Jatavian Sanders is out. There is cheap Panthers tight ends. I don't think I'll get there. I just want to mention it. I don't think I'll get there, but.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it though, because if he is out, so it's probably going to be the Tommy Tremble show.
Tommy Tremble, yeah.
And
frankly, I think there's a couple other cheap tight ends I'll mention later that I'd rather play, but I just wanted to mention it that it is out there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, sometimes people build lineups where they've got 2,700 left and they're like, let me just try to get lucky at the tight end position. And that's a position you can absolutely get lucky in. So I'm actually really happy you pointed that out. As far as Ted McMillan, I like him. I don't think I'm going to get to him at 5,900. I just think there's going to be this is not a situation. I like Drake May. There's not a situation where I think you need a run back, like you said, Meg. All right, let's go to Meg, our Commanders, -1.5 at the Falcons. I don't know what to think of this game, Meg. I don't know if you have a take on Jaden Daniels. I kind of line up, unless I'm missing some news over the last hour or so. I kind of line up with what Mike said last week, which is he's not playing last week, and he probably shouldn't play this week, and maybe shouldn't play the week after that. So I feel like it's going to be Mariota in Atlanta this week. Do you have any thoughts there, and what are you playing in this game?
That's exactly how I feel as a fan. I hope they're cautious and sit him. So I think they will do that. I think it will be Mariota, especially with how well he played last week. We talked about it. He delivered. I think they absolutely should play Mariota again. It sounded like I didn't see it, but it sounds like from clips of a press conference with Jaden Daniels, he of course wants to play. He feels like he's managing the pain and everything, or managing things well, but if he said it's doctor's decision. And this feels like we actually have a real franchise that is letting the doctors make the decisions and make the right decisions, hopefully. So that's my way of saying, I think it will be Mariota again this week. I hope that's the case. And then I'm interested in playing Mariota again. I mean, he could have had an even bigger day. Terry McLaurin went down at the 1, but he had a very good day for his price. He only went up to $5K. So I definitely still have interest in Mariota. And quite honestly, there's so many other pieces I like on this slate. I probably wouldn't even force a run back, or excuse me, well, I wouldn't necessarily force a run back. I do like Bijan Robinson, but I wouldn't force a stack. I would probably just do like Mariota and Bijan Robinson or something like that.
Do you have a take on, if Terry McLaurin is out, which that's certainly trending that way officially, like Luke McCaffrey at 3,400, Chris Moore at 3K, like Jalen Lane at 3,300. It does feel like it would be Luke McCaffrey that would maybe get more looks.
Right.
And again, this is something we have the benefit of waiting for the news, right? Not only on Terry McLaurin, but on what the coaches say and in terms of who's going to play and things of that nature. But would you like one of those value pieces if it's somebody like Luke McCaffrey just to make your lineups work, or is it just too speculative?
It's probably one of those situations when I'm building, and if it's like, oh, I could get up to this, and you know, as the news progresses and on Saturday, and it's, oh wow, I could get X, Y, and Z if I did do Luke McCaffrey. Luke McCaffrey would be the one with familiarity that I would go to most likely, but I don't know that I feel the need to get there. There's a couple other really cheap pieces on this slate that I may consider too, but honestly, in my build so far, I haven't needed to do that, so I don't know that I will.
Mike, I think this is a pretty sneaky game because as bad as Atlanta looked last week, I'm still not necessarily bought in on this Commanders defense. They've been pretty good against the run, but I could see Bijan exploding. But I could also see somebody like Darnell Mooney or Drake London or even Kyle Pitts having a pretty big game. Are you in on this game at all, Mike?
Yeah, I'm in on the Atlanta side for sure. Well, I want confirmation again. I know we want to, we speculated heavily on Mariota. I think it was very clear he was going to be the starter last week. Yeah. I would expect that to be. That's certainly what I would recommend. Not that they want to consult me, but I wouldn't play him until the Cowboys game in week 7. I'll go back to Mariota a bit if he plays. I like Drake London, though. I think Drake London's too cheap. I think that they go and have some success offensively. I think they're extremely aggressive after the awful performance that they just put up. So Bijan clearly in play. Like Bijan still got there last week without the team scoring any points. Like so Bijan, you got to love that. But Drake London just too cheap in my opinion at 5,700, 5,600, I believe. I'm going to play him as pretty much a core play this week.
Yeah, and the Washington secondary is banged up. So I mean, I do agree with that. I think I am a little scared off from what I saw from Michael Penix last week, but I really can't because it is a good matchup for London. So I mean, I would say London's in my pool. He's probably a little farther down. Bijan's a little higher up, but those would be the two Falcons pieces. So that's a great point by Mike. And the secondary is banged up for Washington.
There's a couple pieces on my cheat sheet that I'm deciding as we're doing the discussion. Normally I have it done before the show, but as I look at this more and more, I think Penix, because Washington's going to create some pressure on Penix, and I just don't see the consistency coming from him. I think that's part of the reason I don't like Drake London quite as much. But I think Darnell Mooney is due for a couple of deep shots. And we know Penix long ball, like if he gets time, he can throw it deep. We know that from his days in college as well. I think Darnell Mooney at 4,700 could be one of those Trey Tucker-ish slate breaking type guys. And you mentioned the Washington injuries in the secondary. It's not that I don't like Drake London. He's certainly going to get more volume than Darnell Mooney, but I would keep an eye on Darnell Mooney. I think I'm going to include him as a value/contrarian play in some of my lineups. All right, we got a lot more to discuss on the 1 o'clock slate, the 4 o'clock slate, our cheat sheets, our top 3 at each position. We're moving along here right after this message from our partner. We're back on, I almost said the early edge. Check out the early edge, by the way, on the Sportsline YouTube channel. But we're back on Fantasy Football Today, DFS with Meg and Mike. Mike on the road, and he is pushing through, which we very, very much appreciate. Meg, I'm going to start with you again on Browns-Lions. So Browns are 10-point dogs at Detroit, 44.5-point total. Certainly the Lions have a pretty high implied total. And this Browns defense is for real. I mean, so impressive what they did against Green Bay last week. I don't know that they can do it against the Lions. Lions have a pretty high implied total here, and they've got some superstar power. I'm out on this game because it's the Browns defense. And I played the Browns defense last week, and that really paid off, as Mike suggested I do. I might play the Browns defense again this week because they're super cheap, even though it's the Lions. What say you on this game, Meg?
Very similar. Yeah, I have been burned already a couple times by playing players against the Browns defense. So I'm not going to do that again. I will say that it looks like the Detroit passing game could be absolutely super contrarian. That is interesting to me, but I don't think I'll get there because I just feel like that I do respect this defense a lot, even though Detroit's at home. I don't think I'm going to get to anything on the Detroit side. And as far as the Brown side, I will show it's on the graphic. Quinshon Judkins, the rookie, does look really explosive, as most thought during the draft process, but obviously had a very odd offseason. So I did not expect this soon, given he wasn't with the team most of the offseason, but we're seeing it already. He is going to be in my pool because I said this could be the week, that we really do want to target a lot of rookie running backs. He would be one of these rookie running backs that just should get a lot of volume. And he's very talented. Still could be used, I think, in a negative game script too. So he's in my pool.
I left him out of that rookie 3 that I mentioned about 10 minutes ago. So yeah, Quinshon Judkins, certainly a possibility here at 5,500. Mike, talk to me about this game. I'm going to be out on this game, but if you wanted to be in on the Lions side, I kind of get it. Again, it's a pretty high implied total of over 27 points. That's telling me something, but also there's just a lot of pieces that can get it done for Detroit. Are you in on this game?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it perfectly. I think there's too many pieces that can get it done with, I won't say extreme price points, but price points that are kind of mature, right? So it's not extreme value on Gibbs at this matchup, like this price on Gibbs and other matchups, sure. But in this matchup, I think it's right on. So if I played anything here, Sia, it would honestly be the Lions defense or the Browns defense. It would just be defenses only. Either side would work for me. If you wanted to isolate something on the Lions and wanted to speculate on them actually achieving that team total, I personally would do it in the passing game, not the running game. I think that they're going to have to throw the football if you believe the Browns defense is that good. Mostly out on this game, though. Mostly a pass other than the defenses. And then if you need a tight end, David Njoku is fine. But mostly defenses and move on.
Yeah. Again, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time. If you want to speculate in a contrarian sort of passing script for, I guess, Goff, but also more importantly, some guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown or even Jameson Williams, go ahead. I don't think any of us, it doesn't sound like we're doing that. Let's go to another game where we might not have a ton of pieces in. I mean, I don't say this word a lot. I might have never said this word, but woof. Titans +7 at the Texans, 7.5 now, 38.5 point total. Meg, I'll start with you again. What are we doing? I mean, listen, Nico Collins is one of the best receivers in the league, at least a top 10 receiver in the league. He's 7,400. It's the Titans defense. I completely get the argument for Nico Collins, or even taking a shot at a guy like Christian Kirk at 4,400. Like, I get all of those things. I'm not getting there though. What say you?
Wolf was a good description of how I feel about this game. So yeah, it's so weird in just week 4 that I'm already like, I'm not even interested in Nico Collins at 7,400 because that offensive line and just them moving the ball is so painful to watch. So I just can't get anywhere. I'm actually kind of interested in maybe even just punting at the Titans defense. It's one of the cheapest defenses on the slate. The Texans have massive offensive line issues. I just might play, we saw a lot of defensive scores last week. I just cannot get there with any of the offensive pieces in this game. So it might just be a punt defense for me.
I don't hate that. Mike, any thoughts on this game? First of all, a guy like Nico Collins, he's not going to be like popular at all, right? Even though he's Nico Collins.
Definitely won't be popular. There's always going to be the case to be made to playing him. I'm not going to play him. I say this, multiple times every year. If you're worried about Nico Collins and want to play him and think he's going to hurt you, just simply bet his anytime touchdown at this point. Treat it like another DFS lineup and move on. I agree with Meg, though. Titans defense is the first thing I would click in this game. And I'm not saying I'm going to go click it necessarily, but it's minimum price essentially at 2,300. It's also a divisional matchup, teams that know each other extremely well. Those games tend to be tighter, more competitive. I think that Titans D would be the only thing. I'm not playing anything offensively in this game.
I mean, if you wanted to get really cute, Woody Marks at 4,400. Maybe it's a split backfield starting now with Nick Chubb, and maybe Woody Marks takes advantage of the Titans' rush defense and has a couple of long runs, and he makes your lineup work. Again, that would be like almost like a throwaway lineup where you're like, all right, I'm going to get cute here in a big contest. Give me Woody Marks, and then I'll just stack everything else up. But there's nothing for me here. Nico as a slight contrarian play, I like. Pollard at 5,600, I think if it was at home would make some sense, but on the road in Houston, probably a get right spot for Houston and their defense. So it's a no for me. All right, let's go to probably some yeses in this Chargers game. Chargers -6.5 at the Giants. It's a 43.5 point total. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, Kanata producing the show, by the way, he's got these graphics up here. And it's always really great. If you're listening to the podcast, we thank you for doing that. Please review the podcast if you can. But most importantly, for what I'm saying right now, the YouTube show has a lot of graphics and pricing and injuries and things like that, lines on there as well. Meg, I think there's a lot to like about this game, even though the total is not super impressive, but we've got a lot of change with respect to the quarterback position, the running back position for the Giants. And we've got a pretty good offensive team with some value at the running back, but maybe at the receiver position as well on the Chargers side. What do you like?
So much. I mean, where do I even begin? Okay, so I'll try to take it team by team. I'll start with the Chargers. Obviously, I am absolutely open to Justin Herbert stacks in this matchup. Herbert, you have 3 main options. He's going to his receivers at a very high clip. So, maybe Ladd McConkey finally gets there in the box score. And he'll likely be coming in at the lowest owned. Keenan Allen has been his guy. Quentin Johnson has been very impressive. So you have literally 3 options stacked. You actually have 4. If Will Dissly is out, and this is an if, I would only play this if. Aronde Gadsden, even in limited routes run, had 7 targets last week. So that is like a absolute puntation that I would only play if Will Dissly is out. So you have literally 4 stacking options and 5 if you want to add the running back Amari Hampton. So you literally could stack it any which way from the Chargers side, or you could just play Hampton on the Chargers side with New York bring back pieces. So that's the Chargers side. And absolutely, I keep talking about rookie running backs. It's his theme in this game. Love Hampton in this spot. Obviously, Najee Harris is done for the season. Hampton has the full workload. We have a similar situation on the New York side with Cam Skattebo. You'll see me light up talking about Cam Skattebo because in best ball content, even though he's a New York Giants rival, I drafted him 40% of the time. I literally was obsessed with watching like his tape from, because I don't really watch college football. My brother said, you've got to watch this kid. His tackle breaking ability, his contact balance is unreal. He's so fun to watch. I became obsessed with it. I drafted an obsessive amount. I hope he is the guy all season. And boy, Sunday night, even in a disgusting loss, he was super fun to watch. So he's going to have the full workload. As the RB1 in New York. He's got pass catching chops. He is a great tackle breaker. So Cam Skattebo is definitely in my player pool. There's a lot of these rookie running backs in that 5K range. He is absolutely one of them. Then you have Jackson Dart starting at 4.5K. it's not the stone minimum 4K. The only reason I'd be interested is his running ability, basically. I think this could go one of two ways. I think he could absolutely pay off with his running ability, or it could be a total disaster. And you don't want any piece of it. I really don't know. I don't know that I'm actually going to get there because there are too many other of the 5K quarterbacks that I'm very interested in. So I don't know that I'm going to get there, but at 4.5K, he's a consideration, and mainly because of his running ability. He and Scadaboo are rookie like besties. It seems like they have lockers next to each other. I'm hoping he checks down to him a lot. So it's Dart but mainly Scadaboo on the New York side. I'll take a break now.
Mike, that was impressive. Mike, let's start on that Jackson Dart subject, because we've been really good at pinpointing really cheap quarterbacks the last couple of weeks at a stone minimum 4K. Well, we look at Jackson Dart, and it's not the stone minimum, but it's pretty close. So my question for you is, because you've been this stone minimum merchant at the quarterback position, is Jackson Dart close enough for you to actually play him this week?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that he's got sneaky rushing upside, but it also is about Scadaboo. As Meg mentioned, I think there's going to be scenarios where he's just dumping the ball, and it's essentially stealing free passing yards, right? So when you combine that with his rushing floor and an extremely likely game script where they're going to be trailing, or at least neutral at best, like things are going really well for the Giants, they're even in this game or down a field goal, like that's a really good outcome for them. The more likely path to getting to the 6.5 point cover is being down multiple scores with a backdoor cover late, like that's the more likely outcome. Very excited for it. Love Hampton on the other side. I'll be heavily exposed to this game and have lots of Giants in play.
So just to follow up on the rushing side of things, and Mike, I do have a follow-up question for you. You might have just said this. You are pairing, you will do lineups with Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo in the same lineup.
Yes. Okay. Yep, that is definitely the strategy. Looking at basically taking all of the Giants rushing while still getting upside to some of the receiver, the pass catching and throwing.
So just an FYI, a couple of things here. When Mike mentioned and Meg alluded to the rushing upside, his rushing prop, Jackson Darts, is like 35, 36 and a half, which is pretty high for a quarterback. For those, I mean, we're not talking Lamar Jackson, but that's pretty high. So there's certainly some potential like rushing upside with Jackson Dart. But as far as Cam Scadaboo and Amari and Hampton, they're rushing and receiving props. Amari and Hampton, 87 and a half, and Cam Scadaboo, 82 and a half. So those are also pretty high. Like, just to give you some comparison, leading the slate is Christian McCaffrey at 122 and a half. Then you drop down to Jonathan Taylor at around 110, Bijan Robinson, all the familiar customers. And then there's a pretty big drop off to like the mid 90s with guys like Saquon Barkley, Jordan Mason, who's not even on the slate. And then right below that are guys like Cam Scadaboo and Omar and Hampton. So that's a reasonably high rushing and receiving total for running backs, Meg, that are in the mid 5K range.
Exactly. And that's why I love them so much. And they have the full workload. And that's why their props are so high is they are the RB1 there. I mean, it's not like they're going to get 100%, but they are going to have it's not like they're in a full split backfield anymore because of the injuries to their counterparts last week. So yeah, I just love the volume, love the setup for these rookie running backs this week. And especially these two rookie running backs in this game.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking like Omarion, for example, and Scadaboo's not too far behind rushing, receiving. It's up there with Derrick Henry, like in the neighborhood of Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, Bucky Irving, and James Cook is only 5-7 yards more. You know, these will change a yard or two here and there, but it just gives you an idea of what the value is for a mid 5K running back versus a value of a 7 to 7,500 8K running back. All right. That's the 1 o'clock slate. Before we transition to the 4 o'clock slate, I do want to mention, Meg, you said something earlier in the show, and I probably should have mentioned this at the front end of the show. I had what I would call, I got some money back, but I had a pretty bad week last week because I was lock button on CeeDee Lamb. I had some great lineups. I had Caleb Williams. I had Rome Odunze. I had some good running. I didn't have Jonathan Taylor in a lot of lineups. I had him in a couple, but I had some really good lineups. But CeeDee Lamb just absolutely crushed me. I had him in the 4 o'clock slate, really heavy. I had him in the main slate, pretty heavy. But what I love about what you said earlier, Meg, was that the 1 o'clock slate, you actually won some money because it was the 1 o'clock slate. It didn't include CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So there's multiple reasons to play multiple slates on a Sunday. One of them is because it just might be just a better fit for you to play a 7-game slate versus an 11 or 13 game slate. But another reason is that if you get a major injury and you're playing 2 different slates, or maybe 3 different slates, because you're playing the main slate and you're playing the 4 o'clock slate and you're playing the early slate, if you get that CeeDee Lamb injury, you do have the comfort of knowing, all right, well, the 1 o'clock games, I didn't get totally just worked over because a guy got injured on a rushing play very early in the game. So again, that's maybe a reason to diversify your portfolio a little bit. Also, there's those times we talk about it a lot where there's so much going on like a 4 o'clock slate. We don't really know what to do. We don't know how to fit players in. Okay, well then you can still play that slate, but play the 1 o'clock slate too. So you can take those worries out and take some really big stands on some games that you really like. So Meg, I just really like what you said about the fact that you didn't get completely worked over because you were diversifying the portfolio from a slate perspective. Any follow-up there before we get to 4 o'clock?
No, you said it perfectly. And I actually, same, I had some good lineups, and thankfully I even min cashed in a Caleb Romadunze CeeDee Lamb lineup with an absolute 0, right? But, it helped doing diversifying with the 1 o'clock slate. So it's nice to just, live in a world, live in a slate without certain players. So if those things happen, you're not totally, dusted. And so, that's a good way to say it. It's just diversifying is key. And sometimes it's all about contest selection.
Absolutely true. All right, we got to get to the 4 o'clock games. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners.
Lamar dancing around the pocket. He does this so well. All the way for the touchdown.
We're back on Fantasy Football Today, DFS. Mike, I'm going to start with you with this one. We got the Jaguars as, I believe, 3.5-point dogs at the 49ers, 46.5-point total. Pretty high implied totals for both these teams. 22 for the Jaguars, around 25, 26 for the San Francisco 49ers. Based on what you said earlier, I know you're playing Christian McCaffrey. What else are you playing in this game?
Yeah, heavy on Christian McCaffrey again. Just the volume's going to be there. I don't think Jacksonville is going to be able to stop them. As far as other plays, Brenton Strange, I'll go back there if you need a tight end at 3,200. I also actually have a build that I kind of like where I'm playing 2 tight ends, where I'm playing Brenton Strange in the flex at 3,200. That's clearly pairing him with Christian McCaffrey in that, and then loading up and getting a lot of what you like everywhere else. As far as other plays in this game, like you could talk me into Jennings, assuming he's out there at a flat 5K. Other than that, the Jags side, it's going to be just looking for cheap value when they're throwing late on Brenton Strange and kind of moving on. Heavy CMC, a little bit of Juwan Jennings, and that's it.
Meg, I assume you're also in on CMC. I think it's, first of all, the Brenton Strange at 3,200 makes a lot of sense too. I wonder, as I look at this, like, by the way, Parker Washington's getting a lot. I don't know if it's going to last, but he's only 3,700. I feel compelled to point that out because he's just getting a ton of targets. Is Brock Purdy in the conversation for you at all? I'm assuming he's playing, but if he is, because this Jacksonville defense, while it's showed up here and there so far this season, I don't think it's very good. And you've got guys like CMC who catches passes, Pearsall, Jennings likely to be back. And just any thoughts on Brock Purdy, and other than CMC, who are you playing in this game?
As far as Purdy, probably not for me. Again, I hope for the other pieces he play, because Mac Jones is obviously injured as well. So it sounds like Brock Purdy should play, but we need confirmation on that. If he does, I still probably won't get there. There's just too many other spots, as opposed to going to Purdy coming back his first week back from injury. So won't play Purdy, exactly like Mike and you in that I'm absolutely in on McCaffrey. The volume is insane. So I absolutely am in on McCaffrey. And for me, I want to hear more about where Jennings is at. He's a consideration, but I actually will probably go more to Ricky Pearsall. depending the situation. I want to see the whole landscape of things with Purdy and Jennings and Pearsall, but I'd say it's McCaffrey and Pearsall for me on the 49ers side. And then the Jags side, Mike said it, he was the other cheap tight end I was going to mention, Brenton Strange, 3,200, just going to go cheap in a likely negative game script on that side. It hasn't been super pretty for the Jaguars offense. Think they have to get through a lot of stuff with their new coach and to smooth things out. So while you could probably get some really low owned pieces, like a Brian Thomas Jr., I don't think I'm going to do it. And it's just Brenton Strange on the other side for me.
I'll say this. First of all, I like Ricky Pearsall. I've played him every week. That's not going to stop here at 5,700. I still think he's underpriced.
Right.
Meg, I mean, I can't believe I'm even asking this because, I'm not a Trevor guy. He's 5,200. It's a reasonably high number here, total number, reasonably high implied total for the Jaguars. Would you consider, let's just say you're building a lot of lineups this week. Would you consider a Trevor maybe naked or a Trevor stack with Brian Thomas? Maybe this is the game, right where they show up. I mean, are we even considering that?
Probably not. I know there's just too many other quarterbacks that I'm honestly trying to narrow down at this point, and he's not even one of them that I'm trying to narrow down. So no, probably not. Even if I was playing more than I typically play, no.
I think if you wanted to get cute on the 4:00 slate with, several lineups, I think you could get cute with a Trevor Lawrence stack, maybe with Brian Thomas, because it's pretty cheap. And then you go to some of these other games that we're about to talk about and just get pieces of those games and just hope somehow Trevor has a big game, maybe rushes a little bit as well. Let's move on to a game that I think has a total that I'm really surprised about. We're going to go to Colts and the Rams. Mike, I want to get your opinion on the total here because 49.5 seems really high. I understand dome environment, two good offenses. I think the Colts are going to take a step back. I'm looking for threes in this market because I want to take the Rams. Is this total legit? Because if it is, it feels like we should get some pieces in this game, or maybe a lot of pieces in this game.
I think it's somewhat legit. I've got it at 48, 47, kind of a key number there. So it's legit. A lot of it has to do with the offensive efficiency, the dome, the controlled environment, definitely where you want to back the Rams generally. Been impressed with the Colts offensively here, though. So I like a little bit here. Puka Nacua, he may have the highest floor of a wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's what we want Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson to be right now. And I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. He doesn't necessarily have the big play upside as much, but just the volume and the opportunity and a bad day from Nakua's probably still going to be 10 catches and 100 yards. He just doesn't land in the end zone, right? That's kind of going to be his baseline in a lot of these games. So the fact that he was able to still do that against Philly outdoors on the road, I love him here. So the first two guys on the screen here, Nacua and Jonathan Taylor, I'm going to be playing both of them quite a bit this week.
Okay, so Nacua and Jonathan Taylor. Meg, I might be out on both of these guys, and it's mostly because I like pieces in other games. If I had to choose between the two, I'd more likely be out on Jonathan Taylor because I do think I love Jonathan Taylor, but I think just overall offensively regression is in order. And you're going to Los Angeles. This is a pretty potent Rams defense. I don't mind sitting Jonathan Taylor because I know I like guys like Bijan, Christian McCaffrey, some of those rookie running backs. What say you on Taylor specifically, in or out, and what do you like in this game?
Taylor still in my pool. I think some of the higher priced running backs like Bijan and Christian McCaffrey, even James Cook, I'll get to more often. But Jonathan Taylor definitely still in my pool. His usage, the way he's starting this season is basically the way he ended last season. He's been just a stud from the end of last season all the way into the first 3 games of this season. So I'm not ready to jump off yet there. And so I definitely still have interest in Jonathan Taylor. Agree on Puka. He's definitely in my pool. The usage of both the Rams, where it's going. It's Puka Nacua. It's Devontae Adams. They're both priced like they should be, but actually they probably are priced too cheap based on how much target share they're getting. Devontae Adams gets more kind of the red zone looks. So I think either are in play. So I definitely have both Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua on the Rams side, Jonathan Taylor on the Colts side. I am considering doing like a Daniel Jones build because I don't have much interest in Stafford because he has to have such a monster day. It has to be like 303 or, 4 touchdowns or something like that, because he offers absolutely nothing on the ground. So I am considering like a Daniel Jones stack to be a little more contrarian, because I think that's going to come in more contrarian, and then run it back with one of the Rams receivers. That's something I'm considering.
Mike, would you consider playing Daniel Jones on this slate?
I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. Not going to get there ultimately, but it's not far off. If I were playing 20 lineups, definitely would have a Daniel Jones lineup or two. At 5, it's just on the outside, but I could totally make the argument.
All right. I'm looking to see if there's any other name. Devontae Adams is the same price as he was last week, 6,200. Mike, I like Devontae Adams again. It's a 1,700 price break. I think Devontae Adams is maybe more likely to get in the end zone as rather than Puka Nacua, although that's really me just kind of speculating on a lot of variants. But your thoughts on Adams at 6,200 in a high-scoring game?
I don't mind it. I see the questionable tag. Wanted to check that out. I admittedly don't know what that is. Probably nothing, since I don't know what it is. I haven't heard anything,
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
So I'm sure it's probably fine, but always interesting when you see it. So I want to check that out, considering his age. Yeah, I have no issues playing him. Why I won't get to him is I'm not going to double stack Stafford. I'm not going to play Stafford, so I'm just going to play Nacua, but I totally get it. And then I'll probably drop down and pay someone like Drake London at 5,600, 5,700 more than Adams. But if you want to go the Adams side, I think there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Mike, real quick, I skipped over this when we were talking Chargers Giants. Are you in or out on Keenan Allen? He's now 5,300. I know I'm going to a different game, but we were talking about the Giants, and we got so caught up with the Giants, I forgot to ask you about the receivers. We got Quentin Johnston, of course, Ladd McConkey, and I know, Meg, you addressed Ladd McConkey, but are you in on Keenan Allen this week at 5,300?
I'm not. So I'm going to be very selective when I use Keenan Allen. I am only going to play Keenan Allen when I think the Chargers are trailing or neutral. Like when I think they're in like just an absolute shootout, you got to go figure out a way to score late, which I don't necessarily project that to be the case here against the Giants. So I'll save Keenan Allen. I'll tell you the matchups I'll be playing him is probably those divisional games against Kansas City and Denver the next way around. That to me seems like those competitive games is where Keenan Allen can really make a difference.
And Meg, let's circle back to this Colts game before we move on. Michael Pittman's only 5,100. I feel like this is a pretty good spot for him. What say you?
Yeah. And again, it's looking like the passing side could be kind of the contrarian side for the Colts, looking like you could get some low ownership on a cheap Michael Pittman. So that's why I definitely have interest in Pittman in my pool, but also in potentially a Daniel Jones stack. Maybe you do Daniel Jones, Pittman, Tyler Warren. But Pittman specifically looks pretty low owned at this point.
Okay, let's move on to the next game here. We've got the Bears at the Raiders. This is my favorite game. It's a lot of people's favorite game. Two pretty terrible defenses, two quarterbacks that love to sling it. My favorite stack, just spoiler alert for the cheat sheet, Meg, is Geno Smith to Trey Tucker. And it does feel like I'm chasing Trey Tucker from last week. But to be honest with you, I'm really disappointed in myself because I meant to bring him up on this show last week because I love how he was targeted the week prior, and I just failed to bring him up. So I'm totally okay in a probable shootout to take a very low price stack and just work my lineup from there. What do you like in this game? Do you like that stack? Am I chasing too much? Do you like the other stack, which of course would be Rome and Caleb? What are you playing in this game?
Same, a lot in this game. This is similar to the Chargers Giants game where I do like a lot in this game. I like your stack. That is definitely in play for me. I think you could also stack Geno with Jacoby Myers or Brock Bowers. I would likely do it again. You know me, I like punting off tight end more often than not. So my stack with Geno would be Tucker or Myers or both. And then on the other side, my favorite stack is Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. We clearly see that Rome Odunze is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. So I love Rome Odunze, period. And I love him in stacks with either Geno or Caleb Williams. So yeah, absolutely love that. Love the passing games here. You could go to Ashton Genty, another rookie running back, just a slightly higher price than some of the other 5K rookie running backs. You could go to him here, but I likely am going to stay on the passing side for both teams in this one.
I'm glad you brought up Genty. That's my favorite contrarian play because people are going to look at this game and they're going to do what they probably should do. And Mike, I'll go to you next. I mean, Caleb stack or Geno Smith stack. We didn't even really talk about Bowers too much yet. I mean, you could obviously, maybe Bowers has a bounce back, but people are frustrated with Gentry, right? They want different pieces of this game, especially with all the rookie running backs that are really cheap. Like, nobody's going to go to Gentry. And I agree that it's a bad offensive line and that he's been super inefficient and might just generally be overrated. But this absolutely could be a breakout game. It just takes 2 big runs for Gentry to have 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but this would be the game potentially where it would happen. Mike, what say you on this game? Are you in on this game as much as Meg and I are?
I'm pretty in on it. More on the Raiders side than the Bears. I do like Geno Smith. I love Jacoby Myers. Maybe we'll be wrong, but I love overreaction season, right? Is it an overreaction or not? We saw 22 targets in the first 2 weeks and 4 targets in week 3. I'm willing to bet that the baseline's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. And if somewhere in the middle of those two is 7 or 8, sign me up. He's 5,400. He's very fast. I don't think we talk about Jacoby Myers' speed enough. When he catches the ball in space, he's a big play waiting to happen. So I like Jacoby Myers. I like Geno. That'd be my preferred way to stack it up and just gobble up, opportunity from that game environment as a whole. I will second that if Ashton Gentry does have a 100-yard game this season. I say does. He will. But if he does, it'll be this one. I think I'll have some success here. Still not going to play him.
And I want to be clear on my Trey Tucker play. I think what I'm going to do is have at least one lineup that has the stack that I like with Trey Tucker, but also has one with Jacoby Myers, because a lot of this is so game script dependent too. I mean, I think Trey Tucker is going to be a target for Geno Smith, but a lot of those targets and touchdowns for Trey Tucker are not a lot of them, but a lot of that production came in sort of the blowout nature of that game, with Washington having a pretty big lead there. So I just think it's, in a neutral game script, it could be leaning on Jacoby Myers. He's definitely the best receiver on that team. I don't think there's any question there. Meg, before we move on to the next game, the final game of the 4:00 slate, Ravens Chiefs, anybody we kind of missed on here that we haven't talked about yet? Like DJ Moore, are we going to be contrarian and cute there? Cole Kmet at a flat 3K. That kind of makes sense, right? Because we don't know. Colston Loveland might miss this game, right?
Yeah, I think Kmet is dealing with a groin injury as well. So we need injury reports on both of them. If Kmet is fine and Loveland is out, then I would add Kmet as a cheap tight end play option. He got scored last week. You could throw out Burden and speculate, does he get, grow and get more of a workload this week, run even more routes, because he got there on limited routes, that explosive flea flicker play, which Swift threw way too high. That was wild to watch. But but maybe it's another step for Burden, and you could throw him out there too. I don't think I'm going to get to, Burden and Moore and those pieces. Maybe Kmet if Loveland is rolled out. To me, I think I'm going to keep it pretty condensed of Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, Trey Tucker, and Myers on the other side, maybe sprinkle in some Gentry. So yeah, I think I'm going to keep it fairly condensed, but I do love this game.
You mentioned DeAndre Swift. He's only 5,400. I mean, talk about a pivot off of those mid 5K guys that we all love and we're going to play. Against this Raiders defense, DeAndre Swift can't have a great game. I absolutely think he can. I think he's going to be on the field, which is what we want in DFS. So somebody at 5,400 that not a lot of people are going to play. That's a starting running back for a total that has around 48 points. You can sign me up for that too. All right, let's go to Ravens Chiefs. Mike, these are your Chiefs. I'm not super interested in playing a lot of this game. Xavier Worthy appears to be back, but he's 5,800. Hollywood Brown, probably his role decreases. We got Tyquan Thornton, who is a flat 4K. I still like Tyquan Thornton. What are your thoughts on this game? Are you playing any pieces here?
I am, yes. Definitely stacking up the Kansas City side here. I think Baltimore still has some issues defensively. And I think this is a matchup that just is almost always going to be competitive. Kansas City has a huge home field advantage. It's an elite motivational spot, though, on both sides, right? It's kind of a must win. Whoever loses this game goes 1-3 to start the season. And dig a pretty big hole when it comes to that, especially the Kansas City side if they lose this game. I like Mahomes and what he's able to do running the football this year. 2 games, the first 2, out of necessity, they ended up losing them. Tight, competitive games, right? 50-plus yards rushing in each of those games. I think he does that again here. I think he has to. That's the state of the offense. And when you give him that kind of a floor, and we're talking about career low pricing, he's a flat 6K. Sign me up. Mahomes at home, pairing him with Travis Kelce, who's now under 5K. He is 4,800. If not now, never for Travis Kelce, in my opinion. It's the ultimate buy low opportunity on them. They have to win this game at home. They're going to have the opportunity. Best case scenario, they're neutral. I don't see them blowing out Baltimore by any means. So I like a lot of offense in this game.
Meg, certainly the odds makers like a lot of offense, 48.5 point total. It's interesting. The last 3 games we just discussed, and it's why we kind of went long on this, even on this show, this last segment here. The Colts game, 49. These are 4:00 games, by the way. The first 4:00 game has a 47.5 point total. The second one we talked about, 49.5. The third one, 47.5. And this last one, Ravens Chiefs, 48.5. 4:00 slate's going to be really interesting, right? But either way, I mean, you can't have pieces in every game, right? Mike's clearly likes this game. He's playing Mahomes. He's playing Mahomes stacks. Are you playing this game?
Yeah, well, first of all, this makes me kind of want to play more 1:00 only for everything you just said to kind of hedge off that, right? Because we talked about that earlier, and just makes me kind of almost want to double down and play a little bit more 1 p.m. only. So as far as this game, I feel a little similar to the Eagles-Bucs game. I think this is going to be an amazing real-life game. I don't see myself getting here a lot in DFS, given all the other pieces on the slate. I absolutely agree with Mike. I think both quarterbacks are going to run a lot. We've historically seen Lamar run against Spagnuolo defenses. And I think Mahomes, when he has to run, and he does. He didn't have to run last week. And that was my mistake because I bet his rushing prop last week. But the first 2 games he did. He puts the team on his back. So Mike makes an excellent point that Mahomes has an excellent floor because he probably is going to have to rush for 50-plus yards. And then that puts him in a potential, does he get a rushing touchdown too? So I think you can definitely consider that. I don't know that I will get there, but I get the reason why. And of course I get the reason why for Lamar too. He's got the rushing floor, even in games where Lamar doesn't put up, wild passing numbers, he's still looking at a really good fantasy day. So it feels risky when I set it off the top that I'm likely going to fade a lot of the top quarterbacks and hope they're kind of good real life games, but not amazing fantasy shootouts. It could burn me. I'm acknowledging that, but I am going to live with those, kind of Herbert to Mariota range of quarterbacks. And so I'm not going to play a lot here. The Xavier Worthy coming back confuses a lot for me with the Chiefs passing game. I don't see me getting to a lot here. It feels scary, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Mike, forgive me if you already said this, but your favorite stack with Patrick Mahomes, is it just with one pass catcher in Travis Kelce? And would you be running it back with anybody?
Yeah, it's going to be with Kelce to start. If we get way more clarity on Worthy, I may play him a little more, but I think that having Worthy out there will really help Kelce in general, just the speed that Worthy represents. As far as bringbacks, I do love Zay Flowers as well. I'm willing to overpay on Zay Flowers in this matchup. I think Kansas City's going to really struggle to defend him. So it'll be him or Bateman, but I'll be back on Zay this week.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a relatively contrarian stack and run back because of all the other pricing options, all the other high scoring games. So really interesting stuff from Mike there. All right. Well, I think it's time to get to our good job, Mike, getting through the show in the motorhome on the way to the track. Really good stuff. I know we need your top 3, but before we do that, Meg, let's get your cheat sheet, and then we're going to get my cheat sheet. We got stack, chalk, buy and fade, contrarian, and value play.
Sure. My stack is going to be Caleb Williams to Rome Odunze. It's clear that Rome is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago, and I'm going to run with that in a good, obviously, matchup against the Raiders. Chalk buy, he's going to be my chalk buy probably a lot of times this season. Already has been, probably will be Christian McCaffrey, of course. And then chalk fade for me is Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm seeing high ownership, and I am not going to play running backs against the Cleveland Browns. So chalk fade for me is Jahmyr Gibbs. Contrarian play, I'm saying week of the rookie running back, Travion Henderson is looking to be very low owned. You do have to speculate that he is going to be, get the first crack there for the Patriots based on the fumbles of the other Patriots running backs, and hopefully makes the most of it against a bad Panthers run defense. So Travion Henderson is my contrarian play. And then value, I just put Cam Scatterboo and all those 5K rookie running backs, because there are, I believe, 4 Hampton, Henderson, Scatterboo, and Judkins in that 5K range. I likely am going to have 1 or 2 expensive running backs, most likely 2 expensive running backs, and rotate through one of these rookie running backs is going to be and play 3 running backs a lot as far as a big picture.
All right. And it's time for my cheat sheet. I'm staying in that Bears game, but I'm going to the other side. I'm going to Geno Smith and Trey Tucker. I absolutely love the Caleb and Adunze stack. And again, I'll just skip over to my contrarian play. I think playing one of the running backs in that game and just taking out the pass catchers largely, or at least the stacks, is a really interesting way to play that. But Geno to Trey Tucker, chalk by Christian McCaffrey, chalk fade Jonathan Taylor. It's not that I hate Jonathan Taylor this week. I'm not willing to play him versus some of the other running backs on the road in LA. Contrarian play, like I said, Ashton Genty. And my value play, slightly contrarian play as well, is Darnell Mooney. I think Darnell Mooney has a shot to get a couple of shots against this Washington defense, which is banged up on the back end. And if that happens, it could be a Trey Tucker type situation where he could potentially break the slate. All right, let's go to Mike's top 3 at each position. Mike, start us out with the quarterback.
Patrick Mahomes, must-win game. We talked about it. It's really about the rushing floor and the price point, guys. He's 6K. He used to be 7K plus. He's 6K and now essentially starts the game with an extra passing touchdown before he throws a pass because of what he's doing with the rushing points, right? Gotta love it there because they're going to be throwing and trailing. Geno Smith, to me, I want to pick on the Bears. I know it didn't necessarily come to fruition with Dak last week, but it should have and could have. I think it will here with the Raiders passing attack. And then Jackson Dart. Give me a cheap mobile quarterback that's got a lot to play for and got some excellent weapons, frankly. I think Scatterbo, Neighbors, there's really quality weapons that can turn an average play into a touchdown, essentially. So running back, Christian McCaffrey, going to play him every week until he's 9,500. Just the volume is there, right? He's either going to get hurt or he's going to be 10K, right? That's where we're heading. That's where we're trending with the usage, right? So give me CMC until one of those 2 things happens. Jonathan Taylor, I like that game. I really do. I like his usage. He really hasn't run all that hot. I know he had a great week last week, but he still could easily have more touchdowns this season where Daniel Jones is running a lot at the goal line. Amarian Hampton, that's the rookie running back I want against the Giants, kind of natural run back to the Jackson Dart stuff. So CMC, Taylor, and Hampton. Wide receiver, right. Puka Nacua is the floor guy for me. He's just got the highest floor. Love him. Drake London, too cheap, massive bounce back spot for the Atlanta Falcons. Jacoby Myers, I think the targets come right back to what we saw. We saw 22 in weeks 1 and 2. I think he has at least 7 targets in this game. Tight end, Travis Kelce. Too cheap, 4,800, stacking him with Pat Mahomes, must-win game. Tyler Warren, I think, is going to be one of the best tight ends in the league for years to come. Want to continue to be early there. And then Brenton Strange, 3,200, cheap, might play 2 tight ends this week, 1 in the flex. Awesome bring back, in my opinion, for the Christian McCaffrey setup. Kelce, Warren, and Brenton Strange.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention Tyler Warren when we were covering the Rams-Colts game. Tyler Warren only 4,600. Meg, I got to put you on the spot. We've got Thursday Night Football tonight. The Cardinals now, the line has flipped a little bit. They're a 1.5-point dog, I believe, currently at home against the Seahawks. Who's winning that game?
I guess I agree with the market because since you said it flipped, I am going to go Seahawks win tonight. I've been impressed with them so far.
Mike, your thoughts on the game, and is there a showdown player or captain that you're maybe going to play, and maybe you haven't run your simulations yet, but maybe you're going to play already?
Yeah, I love Seattle, offensively at least. I like their team totals over, whether it be first half, full game. Cooper Kupp has made an absolute living playing against zone defenses. He just has a unique ability to get open, find the soft spot. We'll see where Darnold looks. Darnold's definitely still first read going to be JSN, and I think JSN has a massive game. I'll be playing both JSN and Cooper Kupp, and I'll even be captaining Cooper Kupp. Don't be surprised if Cooper Kupp has his one multi-touchdown game of the year this year. Tonight.
This is a really good matchup for Cooper Kupp. I totally agree. I actually have an over on Torrey Horton, over 20.5 receiving yards, although that's kind of scooted up to 24, 25.5. I still like that, but I do think it's a premier game for JSN, of course, but I think Cooper Kupp could have a good game. If you watch the Early Edge on the Sportsline YouTube channel earlier today, you know that Mike had Cooper Kupp, and we made him make this pick. He doesn't normally make first touchdown picks, but he had Cooper Kupp as a first touchdown score at 17-1. I had Torrey Horton at 22-1. Meg, without knowing the odds, let's give us a first touchdown score before we close the show.
Oh, I do want to stick on the Seattle side. You said you took Torrey Horton, so I want to do the same one. All right, then I'll be boring and say JSN will cover the whole Seattle receiver crew.
Well, Seattle's got to score first. All right, sounds good. Well, listen, great stuff, Mike. Thanks for pulling through with all of the stuff you've got going on this week. Meg, obviously, you're always awesome. Love doing this show with you too. We're going to do it next Thursday. Do not forget to join our Fantasy Football Today DFS contest. It's in the podcast description and in the YouTube description. Let's get some green screens next week. A big thank you to Kanata for helping us out on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. We'll see you next time on Fantasy Football Today DFS.